Hey, hello, dear friends. It is the 22nd of January. Welcome to today's video. I'm Chris with Ele Cafe. I'm going to start right off the bat with Bitcoin, and then we'll take a look at the equity markets, which really haven't done a whole lot today. I was expecting a little bit more upside based on kind of yesterday's so-called reversal, but they kind of struggled to continue to push, at a strong rate. So we're in the middle of some decisions. I like to look at the weekly charts a lot more lately. It's a little bit less noise. You can kind of see the trends better, support, resistance. The daily charts, tend to kind of move all over the place, and at least for direction and, judging even for holding positions, if you're a positional trader, right, the weekly charts are amazing to kind of keep up with and not even look at anything basically below the weekly, no dailies, no 4 hours, no nothing like that. I mean, if you're a short-term trader, of course, but so you look at the Bitcoin picture in here, and it continues to look as it's struggling. We've had last week was a pretty decent rally. You can see on that kind of dark candle that was trying to push higher, mind you, on a pretty decent volume here, I think, on Coinbase. But then we kind of got rejected, and today, I mean, this week, we seem to be spending this right at that 10-week moving average. So overall, the pattern, it's kind of toppy the way it looks, right? You have this kind of left formation, head formation, right head formation kind of forming. Usually, also when the right bounce, it's weaker or smaller than the left, then that could be a signal that there is probably further weakness up there. But listen, that's not to say that we cannot continue to move to the upside, and if we do, we got to get back above the last week's high and obviously above this 52-week moving average. I think I got in here. A very simple pattern. It's right to just kind of draw, just a basic trend line right there. And if we start to lose it and kind of get back below it, let's say this week, if we close below that, and then following week, we accelerate. Chances are that these lows here will get challenged, and then they we're probably going to go and challenge these lows back here. So again, on the weekly time frames, a nice little picture in here. Bottom line, I don't think there is any rush in here to do anything with Bitcoin at the moment. For that matter, Ethereum, it's a mess. Completely flat 52-week moving average, a flat. What is this? The blue one. I don't even know what this 46. Why do I have that on there? I'm not sure. Maybe it's a mistake. So anyway, and then you have this red one. I think that's the 10 week. So listen, none of these are pointing the right way. You're not in a decent uptrend or anything like that. And an XRP, again, kind of flattening out. And if anything, it's after a rejection. Look at that rejection a couple of weeks ago from the moving average in there, and kind of getting below a declining with the crossover in here. Oh boy, massive level here at about 180. We'll see if this holds, but definitely for losing that, right, there's danger for much further downside. So, I don't have a bearish view on cryptos or anything like that. I'm just, showing you the reality on the chart in here, and we'll follow along with what happens. They have the right, all of these to prove us wrong and show us that they trade strong and close like this week and continue to close like that and push higher. But so far that really hasn't happened. So that's my view on. I don't even look at Solana in a long time. Oh, what a mess. What a mess. Weekly charts, just nothing there, nothing really. All right, VIX has been coming down after that bounce on Tuesday, right, when the markets open with the tariff drama in Greenland and all of that. It's coming back at 15, so looks like kind of that risk was, kind of eliminated. So you could see in here that the equity markets bounced yesterday, and today they were trying to follow through. But if I look at the weeklies, we're still, I guess, fairly okay here. On this is the Nasdaq, and the Nasdaq Composite. It's a pretty similar picture, but I want them to drop the RSI below 60 in here. If they do, then we can have a pretty serious correction on our hands, or at least something bigger for at least several weeks. So far, we're kind of holding pretty in that uptrend, and if this week we close back above this 50-day moving average, about this 10-week, then the chances are that this uptrend can continue. So, I know we're kind of sideways in here. From an Elliott perspective, I've been talking, hey, this is a sell-off, and then you can do an A, B, down in C, right? Or a wave one, long kind of dragged out wave two, and then you start to break lower. But it's only the price action. I mean, the price action has to confirm, has to kind of tell us that that's the case. And just a quick look at this weekly time frames, with at least with the bounce for the past couple of days, that's not there yet. So if anybody wants to short today's bounce, I would definitely get out of there above last week's high, right? If that gets taken out, then all bets are off. So here it's a nice risk reward if anybody wants to look towards the short side, but remember, price it's still holding pretty well up there. So that's that. Same on the S&P. Look, RSI is above 60, and we got rejected. Just a simple picture below that 10-week moving average. We tried to get back below it. It was like same thing in here, right? We spent a couple of weeks right above it, and then bam, we dropped 1 week on high volume. This was, when was this? Back in November, right? That November drop, and then the following week we just got back above it, closed back above the high of that week, which was a bullish development again. And even though you haven't made a lot of progress, we didn't do a lot of damage either. So I'm kind of torn again, between, in my views in here. There's still stuff that I follow. It's still not that pretty. Those kind of gap buys and the divergences, with the staples and with the, with XLY and obviously XLP, and then what's the other one that I was looking at? I have a brain freeze right now, but all that stuff, like even the look in the NYSE, right, which is there is a divergence. If you look at the spread between the NYSE and the SPY, it's actually dropping because you have a lot more value in the New York Stock Exchange, not as much tech, and that's kind of moving lower. So the market is shifting away from growth towards value. I mean, I know the the Russell, it's bouncing. So maybe there's a shift again from all the tech to up into the small caps. Let's take a look at them here at the Russell. Look, push, and remember, we've talked about this on the daily. You would see that this ABC and the signal to go long was on top of this B wave, which continues to show that buying above B wave, on good volume and with a good pattern, it's usually a good idea for a move to new highs, and that could continue with some kind of a trailing stop or targets. But here we are 3 weeks later, and the Russell closes up at the highs on pretty decent volume, I must say, with an RSI that it's now it's 70, so it's in an uptrend. It's hard to fight this, right? There's no point for that. We'll see, how we close the week, but definitely, if there is any rotation in that, it's some money are moving into Russell, some money are moving maybe into, and if you have a reversal, right? Let's say that the Russell stops going up, and I know next week is going to be a lot of earnings, right, from Apple and all of those. I don't know if Apple is next week, but anyway, mega caps we're having, and if those start to turn they have a lot of weight in the market, and they can really push the S&P and the NASDAQ to new highs. So we got to be aware of that. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but just kind of thinking of that, kind of maybe preparing myself mentally that something like that could take place, which is fine. I don't have a problem with it. I just got a position. So that's where we are. SOX, which is semiconductor, still looking fairly healthy and pushing in here. Gold, look at this. What wave three? This wave three, yeah, we got to move it back some more because it's just hugging the 50-day, and I mean, yeah, the 50-day near, and it continues to push. Silver, it's 97. They're going to want to tag that 100, and if we do tag 100, it's probably going to go to 101, 102 before we drop, I would think, a little bit. But so far, nobody's giving up on that silver. Continues to act very strong. The dollar index got rejected from that declining 52. It would try to kind of get back above that 50-day for a couple of weeks, and now gets rejected. So the risk trade is picking back on a little bit. Yields sold off a little bit in here. Euro. I mean, this is just a kind of clearly a correlation there with the dollar, but yes, the risk trade seems to be a little bit back on. We've gotten bulls and bears today from AII, and the level of bulls dropped a little bit, but not too much. So there's still a bullish exposure up here at the highs, and I think we're it's going to get definitely interesting. How this is going to resolve. If we're going to make a new high, then drop. If we're going to close back. So right now it's just one would have to be careful and listen. I'll continue to watch these weekly closes. They're very clean and nice, and they don't create a lot of drama. So we'll see where we go with this. Definitely keeping an eye on Bitcoin, because if this risk trade gets put back on somehow, Bitcoin has to benefit as well, I would think, right? That would be a good signal. If it doesn't, then we know Bitcoin is in trouble. But if we notice that the equity markets are starting to kind of get a little bit of strength in here, then Bitcoin should do so as well. And I kind of have my eyes on that. But that's all I have for today. It's Thursday. We'll see tomorrow. I'm not going to have a video, but we'll see how we close, and we'll pick it up next week. But definitely again an interesting market. So I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.